Good evening, friends. Welcome to the podcast. Today, we are going to discuss about the Supreme Court judgment, which is a landmark and monumental moment in India's right to die with dignity. With us, we have none other than Dr. R.K. Mani sir. He has been a teacher and mentor to many of us, and he has been fighting the cause for right to die with dignity for almost 25-30 years, since the time we have been in critical care. So on 11th March, Supreme Court of India delivered a historic ruling permitting passive euthanasia. We won't want to use the word passive euthanasia, so we'll use the word withdrawal of life-sustaining treatment in a specific case involving a patient in a permanent vegetative state. This is widely considered the first judicial implementation of India's right to die with dignity framework. Dr. Mani sir, what makes this 11th March Supreme Court judgment a landmark movement in India's right to die with dignity jurisprudence?
See, the first landmark judgment was in 2011 or 12, Aruna Schonbach case, where in principle the Supreme Court uh, endorsed withdrawal and withholding of life support in medicine, in critical care. And then came 2018 judgment, which was addressing the whole spectrum of cases that we encounter, not just persistent vegetative state as with Aruna Schonbach. And then it was a bit of departure from the Aruna Schonbach case that we didn't need to go to the High Court to appeal for these decisions. But it had a complicated three-tier process, which was simplified, modified in another landmark judgment in January 2023. Now, that prescribed a two-tier system, which involved two panels of doctors, two boards, primary and secondary board. The secondary board having as one of its members a CMO or district health officer appointee. Now, this looked good on paper, but it has not been tested by a case law. See what I mean? Similarly, in spite of Aruna Schonbach case in favor of withdrawal of nutrition from Aruna, in case the next of kin agreed, which was not the case, so that was not implemented. So here was an appeal for the first time from Harish Rana's parents. Harish Rana was a 32-year-old lad who had been in persistent vegetative state for 12 years since a traumatic brain injury from a fall. Now they had faced untold suffering in his care, both emotionally, physically, and financially, and they had appealed for sitting physician boards to look at the possibility of withdrawal of life support, which in his case is nutrition through a PEG tube. Now, this was initially dismissed by the Delhi High Court, saying that the patient is not on any life support, ignoring the fact that any artificial intervention is a life support. And they dismissed the case, and then they went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court looked at it more compassionately, but didn't pronounce on the subject of withdrawal of nutrition, clinically assisted nutrition, hydration, as we call it. They didn't address that issue directly, but tried to help the family by allowing them to seek help from public health agencies for financial and support with personnel. However, that was not directly addressing the issue of the lack of emotional closure which the parents were seeking after 12 years of a futile search for his recovery. Then Supreme Court was approached again. We have been working with Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, represented by Dr. Dhwani Mehta, a legal legal expert who's been working with end-of-life care. And the family was represented by their own lawyer and by Vidhi Center. And this crucial issue of bringing to effect, which was conceptually allowed, okay, right from 2011 or 12 Aruna Shanmugh judgment, and then endorsed through 2018 and 2023 judgments. This conceptual principles were challenged for implementation, right? And that met with obstacles in the form of, raising questions which had been already addressed,
Absolutely.
like what constitutes life support and whether it is active or passive euthanasia. The High Court, you will recall, Delhi High Court said this would be tantamount to active euthanasia if we remove nutrition. But then we were talking about artificially administered nutrition. And this has been clarified by today's judgment that any artificially administered nutrition is life support,
Absolutely.
if that is what is keeping the patient alive. So I think this is the first time we have a case law where the principles enunciated in court are finding implementation.
Very nice.
And then the court has also directed the the high courts to inform all the CMOs about the procedure prescribed by the 2023 judgment and have given a time frame to implement them. And they have set a time frame. They will oversee the improvements or the compliance thereof in a month and in 6 months' time.
Very right, sir.
I think these are
Yes.
very valuable developments, as important as the 2018 and 2023
Yes.
judgments.
Very rightly said. And this judgment also tells us that the process must be carried out in a human and dignified manner. The process should not become mechanical, even for end of life. And as you rightly pointed out, they have acknowledged that artificial nutrition is also a life support. So this makes the judgment even more monumental. Sir, my next question to will be, now, what specific safeguards did the Supreme Court mandate before withdrawal of life support treatment can be carried out?
I think we should follow the 2023 procedure,
Yeah,
the primary and secondary boards, and that should be enough, and then uh, in the persistent vegetative state, many times the patients are at home, being cared for at home. So to set up two panels, it will require, for the purpose, admission to a hospital,
absolutely.
And even now to implement withdrawal of nutrition and hydration, the patient will be looked after in the AIMS. Okay,
Yeah,
withdrawal of nutrition, but then appropriate care um, while the death is anticipated. Yes.
sir, the next question will be, how will the court's direction to monitor the implementation after 1 month and 6 months influence the hospital practices across the India? How serious we will be, how comfortable we will be?
You see, most of the doubts that bedeviled our administration, hospital administration, and physicians is that what is the position in court,
Absolutely.
whether we are legally safe. Now, it is amply clear that if you follow the procedure, you will be legally safe. And then the court is also directing that the necessary infrastructure for the procedure should be in place. It is directing the state governments to do so because they must inform all the district high courts and then the CMOs to appoint a sitting panel of RMPs for the second report. Now, this is what was lacking. After the 2023 judgment, there is hardly any implementation of this rule for the second report. So this has been baffling most physicians and administrators.
Absolutely, sir.
So I guess this putting in place the structure will be accelerated by this judgment.
And probably this will allay the un, unwarranted fear of law. People were so much feared about not having a clear law about it and giving that as an excuse. So now, sir, India has a clear constitutional backing for withdrawal of futile life support in vegetative or terminal states. And the process has been further simplified, and we look forward that the healthcare providers, intensivists, and the administrators abide by the rulings. What will be your final message for the budding intensivists and the administrators, sir?
See, the final message is, see, one should not only consider the legal aspect of this decision. This is one element, and that is very nearly settled issue. This is in the space, in the words of Justice Pardiwala today, it is in the space of compassion, love, uh, letting go in time, and dignity in death. So these are the more overwhelming considerations. We will, over time, we will have a system in place to comply with the legal procedure. But then what should drive our practice are these values.
Absolutely, sir.
Appropriate care of the dying, appropriate institution of treatment, not life support when it is not needed, not beneficial. They have defined also what is best interest. They have taken best interest definitions of across the world and also for the country. So the best interest is what should drive our treatment plan and whether or not it's appropriate to institute life support. So that this clinical judgment is very crucial for an intensivist. It's not just the skills of rescue and support, it's also the skills when not to institute them or to remove them and not being appropriate.
Very well said, sir. I am thankful to you for your kind words and for furthering the cause of end of life through this podcast. We must understand the basic ethical principles should be abiding, the basic humanity should be always abided. We should be the sensitive ICU. Being human is most important. And as we always say, let the cure not be worse than the disease. With these words, we'd like
Yes,
to thank you, sir, for the wonderful knowledge you have dissipated through the podcast, sir. Thanks for.
absolutely. Thank you, Yash, for this wonderful podcast.